What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Gamescom opening night live recap show special edition of Level Up Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. You can call me John, and I am joined, as always, by the man directly below me on your screen. He's known as the Courtside King, and the King of the Courtside. You can call him Joey. What's up, buddy?
Doing well, John. I'm excited. It's a big week, Gamescom. We have a lot of great esports coming up this weekend as well. It is just a great week to be around.
Absolutely. And we are joined once again by the resident OTN thirst trap, WalkerTN 15. What is popping, you god of a man? What's up? How you doing?
That is 100% the nicest thing you've ever said to me, even dripping with sarcasm, and I appreciate it. I'm doing great, John. Thank y'all for having me.
Drew, no, okay. Look, in all honesty, Drew has been actually a big inspiration of mine lately. He is on this amazing health and workout kick, and he's posting all of his stuff on his Instagram. I don't know if you want to plug your Instagram or not, Drew, or I mean, it's totally up to you. But, you know, some people would see like people posting like updates and everything on social media, and like, okay, that might be a little cringe. Drew's actually doing it in a really nice way. It's actually it's really motivating. So I'm actually saying all of that stuff as a compliment, Drew, believe it or not. Sarcasm aside, I know I'm known for sarcasm, but actually it was a compliment today. There you go. How about that?
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate
Nation,
that.
make sure you follow the show. I'm joking, Drew. You're good.
No, go ahead.
That was your good. I just had to cut you off because it was funny. It is what I do. Nation, because I'm rude. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter and Facebook at LvLUp Live. And while you're on Twitter, follow Joey, myself, and Drew. It's at Courtside King for Joey, at Fiasco for myself, and at WalkerTN15. That is still your Twitter handle, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm getting the heads up from Drew there. Also, Drew, nice new camera, by the way. We have to give you a shout out here. That is a very crisp and clear camera right there with your University of Tennessee letters right behind you. Also, you can see it clear as day now. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, pretty happy with it. I will not be plugging the name of the company because they are not sponsoring this episode. So if you want to be mentioned here, you know, companies reach out.
It doesn't stop Joey from name dropping Aslan Beer Company, though. I mean, I'll tell you what, he does it like
there's always exceptions out there.
There is always exceptions. But one thing that is not an exception is you really don't have a choice to miss this show. It is pretty much your obligation as a human being to watch Level Up Live on Twitch. But if you can't do it, it's okay. We have an out. Like everything, there's always a second option, second best. That is the podcast version of the show, LvLUp Podcast, available on Spotify. I almost said Spotify. Not right. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Pretty much everywhere else where a podcast is available, you can find the feed there as well. And just one small thing, if you do listen to the podcast feed, please do leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Reviews do go a long way. Not only help reach new members of the audience, but for us, because we get to hear your feedback, and then we get to make those changes to the show for what you, our listeners and viewers, want the most. So please do leave us a review. And as always, we touched on it a little bit last week as well. We do have a Patreon, patreon.com/OTN. Tons of tiers, tons of rewards, tons of exclusive access. So definitely check that out, patreon.com/OTN. We are still in the process of kind of revamping some things, but you definitely want to get in for when the fun hits because you'll still be eligible for all those amazing, awesome changes coming on down the road. Joey, it's large across the top of our screen right now. It's the title of the stream on Twitch. It is all over social media. So I'm going to ask you a very obvious question, but I feel like it's tradition, so I have to do it. Joey, what in the world are we talking about today on the Gamescom 1 opening night live recap show, live special edition on Level Up Live?
Well, guys, we're actually going to switch it up and talk more about Drew's Instagram tonight on the show.
Spicy.
Looking through his recent stories, his pictures, all that good stuff. Then from there, we're going to dive into some gaming stuff, which is where we're really going to go tonight. We're going to talk about the Destiny 2 stream that happened yesterday. We're going to dive into the Xbox stream that happened yesterday as well. And from there, the Gamescom opening night live stream happened today. 2 hours of goodness from Jeff Keighley and the crew. We're going to dive into some of the games that stood out to us there. And then from there, we're going to slide over to Thursday and just do a tiny little preview of the indie game show to come, as well as the rest of Gamescom. So, guys, we have a lot to cover tonight. There were I think somewhere around 50 games that were mentioned. We're obviously not going to hit on every single one, but there are quite a few that made the list.
All right, Joey. You're leaving us with a very large task to do today, but I feel up to the challenge. Drew looks like he's up to the challenge. He is pumped. He is excited. I know there's some Destiny 2 in there too, so Drew's going to be very excited. Before, Joey and Drew, before we can even get into this episode, it is time for the drink of choice. Drew, this will be like, what, your second time doing the drink of choice with us?
Second, third, something
like that. Well, I'm going to change the rules here a little bit. Guest first here for the drink of choice, Drew. So what is your beverage for tonight's special edition of LvLUp Live?
I figured for something special like this, I should have a special drink. So I'm having some Dalmore 12-year single barrel scotch on the rocks.
Am I allowed to?
You fancy?
Am I allowed to cuss on the show, Joey?
Preferably not, so we can keep our nice teen rating.
Okay. Holy moly, Drew! Like, what in the? You're coming on the show shooting shots already?
Like, that was a vendor gift from some folks at work who really want to sell us software, and I'm not the person to talk to, but they don't know that.
They do now, because I hate to tell you, they're one of our like a bajillion viewers here on LvLUp Live. Joey, I'm gonna let you go next. Good luck following that up. What's your beverage?
I'm a little fancy too today. Not quite as fancy, but I'm going Blanton's bourbon, so I kind of went for the high dollar bourbon tonight as well.
All right. Well, frat boy John strikes again. I have fruit punch and vodka. We're doing it. We're doing it fun style tonight, boys. All right. So everyone's getting fancy, and I'm a bum apparently. So, all right, Joey and Drew, let's get right into it. Let's get right into our recap show here for Gamescom opening night live recap show. Joey, let's kick it off with our first game.
Yeah, let's do it with Gamescom. So the way we're going to work it, guys, again, we're going to kick things off with Tuesday shows, which were Destiny and Xbox. Drew is our Destiny expert here, the resident Destiny expert at OTN. So we're going to kick things off with some Destiny 2 action. Drew, what is coming to Destiny 2 and what should we be excited for?
So there's a lot coming to Destiny 2. The new season actually dropped yesterday. I've already played it more in the last 24 hours than I played the entire last season. But more importantly, we're looking ahead to the new expansion that is coming in February called The Witch Queen. We've been building to The Witch Queen for, as they said in all of their reveals, 7 years now. This force behind the scenes that's causing all sorts of issues. A lot of really cool twists coming into the campaign. They're promising a massive campaign. They're adding a legendary campaign mode, very Bungie of them to do. And then they also revealed the final 2 expansions coming after that will end the Light and Darkness saga. They made sure to point out that Destiny 2 is not ending, just that saga. I think Destiny 2 is going to be a game that probably never ends at this point. They're just going to keep changing it like any other MMO.
Yeah, I feel like Destiny is now becoming, or Destiny 2 rather, is becoming what we originally thought Destiny was going to be. Kind of that one game that just continues on and on like an MMO, like you mentioned. Now, with the Witch King here, or Witch Queen rather, who is she? Do we know anything about her, or is this completely new to this expansion?
So they've been teasing her for the last couple years, and she's been in the lore, which, unless you're a nerd like me and you buy the lore books they put out, it's kind of hard to find. But she is the sister of Oryx, who was the Taken King, and Crota, who was one of the first big bosses that you fought in the original Destiny. So she is a Hive Queen. She is the mother of lies, and very, very tricky person. And she's actually been hiding in plain sight. That was a big reveal at the beginning of this season that I won't spoil, just in case you all decide to dive in.
So now back to you, John. So you and I, we played a little bit of Destiny back when it first launched. We dove in, we did our thing, we had some fun. I think we both made it through the main campaign. I know at least I did. Is this the kind of expansion that could draw you back in, or is it still a little too late for you to go back to Destiny?
It's way too late for me to go back to Destiny. Like, look, I'm glad that Destiny 2 is surviving. I was halfway expecting a Destiny 3 announcement because, you know, when Bungie comes out and says, oh, you know, yeah, we're going to create this new Destiny game. It's going to be, you know, one game with multiple expansions. We're going to make it a live service game. No, you don't have to worry about a Destiny 2. And then Destiny 2 drops after the disaster that was Destiny 1 and everything they promised and didn't deliver. Then Destiny 2 comes out, and it feels just like Destiny all over again. I mean, I'm sorry. I came back for Destiny 2. I paid full price for it. I played it and quickly got burnt out. The expansions that came out, I know a lot of people say that they're great, they're fantastic, but I'm sorry for those original gamers. I mean, I'm not going to speak for everyone, just for me at least. It's still not enough to bring me back. There's so many other games out there, so many other MMOs out there that have my attention that I am more interested. So many bigger titles coming out that Destiny 2 to me is always on the back burner.
I will say the one thing all of your complaints have in common is a company whose name rhymes with Mactivision, and they're no longer involved. So just if that helps at all.
No rebuttal on that one, John.
I mean, look, I mean, we've slammed Mactivision. We're gonna keep with the rhymes here, quite a bit here. I mean, you're right. I mean, I like Bungie more than I like Activision for sure. But at the same time, in a very saturated gaming market, you have to do something incredibly big to draw people back in. And I'm sorry, I feel sorry for anyone trying to go up against Halo this year, because as of right now, you know, multiple generations of gamers, that's what they're looking forward to. Yes, don't get me wrong, this pre-alpha footage that we're watching on screen right now looks amazing. Destiny never had bad graphics. That was never the issue. For me, the issue was the repetitive gameplay, the somewhat meh storyline, and just how grindy the game felt for a little reward at the end of the day. That was always my issue with it, and these expansion packs have been more of the same. So if you're going to draw me back in, it's going to take more than just graphics. It's going to take more than me having to go out and buy a bajillion lore books to keep up with what in the world's actually going on in the game. You're going to need to give me more, especially when my attention is focused on Halo, Call of Duty, Battlefield. There's so many great AAA titles coming out that if Destiny wants to draw someone like myself back in, they need a lot more than just this.
Now, this is not going to be the Bash Destiny segment. We're going to take a little bit of a different road here because I'm in a similar spot, John. I mean, for me, it's not necessarily the grindiness of it, which is a big factor, especially when it comes to MMOs. For me, it's more the PvP. I did not like the Crucible mode. It didn't feel right to me. Like, it didn't feel like stuff was balanced as well as it should have been, or it wasn't like registering as well as I thought it should. So for that, like comparing it to Call of Duty, Battlefield, all that, I definitely tend to go that direction as opposed to Destiny's direction. But there is a lot of good content here. And when you look at different MMOs, I really can't think of another MMO with a first-person shooter perspective. I mean, maybe like Warframe might have something like that. John, I don't know if you ever tried Warframe. That might have certain things. I know there's some melee aspects to that as well, but it's still very unique. It's very different compared to a lot of the different MMOs out there. It's not your WoW. It's not your Old Republic game in a sense. It's very unique in that area. With that being said, Drew, so we talked a little bit about the Witch Queen. There's obviously some more stuff coming, like you mentioned, the end of the 2 expansions, or the end of the Light and Dark saga, rather. What are some other things to look forward to? I know Destiny has kind of gone into the seasonal format where they're changing seasons. There's talk of a 30th anniversary event as well. What else can we look forward to?
So you're absolutely right about the seasons. And this season is actually unusually long because they did have to push out the Witch Queen into February because of COVID and some other delays that every studio's had to deal with. So this is a very long season. It started yesterday and it runs all the way through February. They've added a lot of content to it that's going to make that a little bit easier. It's also nice if you're wanting to complete more of the season pass or even the free-to-play objectives to unlock stuff. But they're going to break it up a little bit. They're actually going to add, like you said, the 30th anniversary package, for lack of a better word. It's an event that is going to drop, I believe, in December. So it's sort of like a season within a season, which I think is brilliant on their part. They're doing a free-to-play event with lots of stuff that you can unlock, but they're obviously also going to do a 30th anniversary premium pass that adds a couple extra events, a couple in-game dungeons, a couple extra weapons, some great emotes that are part of that, and I don't know what else they're going to sneak in there. They're bringing in things from Marathon. We know that they were Halo at one point. Maybe they're going to bring in some Halo stuff. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. And I know they're then looking at legacy content being something they want to recycle in more. That's been big to attract people. Bringing back an old raid from Destiny 1, the Vault of Glass, got a lot of people excited.
Oh, God,
so they're talking about remastering another one. Yeah, Vault of Glass was classic.
It was great.
So bringing that back in, and then rotating some of those and some of the dungeons, the things that aren't included currently, so you can still play them. That's been a big complaint, and I love that they're addressing that. And then the biggest thing is Gjallarhorn is back. The classic rocket launcher that was stupidly OP, and even after they nerfed it, it was still the rocket launcher of choice for raiding and anything with a big boss. So that's going to be exciting to get to bring back behind that paywall, I assume. I'm sure after the anniversary event ends, it'll be something you can pick up, but boy, for those 3 months, it'll be worth paying for. So lots of great stuff. It seems like they're listening to the fans and trying to bring in some of that classic content while giving people more stuff to do. And I think trying to tune PvP to make it a little more fun, because you are not the only one who feels that way, Joey, let me tell you.
That was like 2 years ago, and it's still just, I don't know. It's just something with the PvP in Destiny just hasn't stuck. But for me, I really like the other aspects of it. Now, I say that, and I haven't played it in a couple of years, but I really enjoyed going through. I get what John's saying as far as the grindiness. That's one of those things that comes with MMO in general, though, and we all know that. But that's like what John said as well. Like, you pick and choose your MMOs. If this isn't your style of MMO, are you really going to want to grind out that gear to be a top gear level? Maybe not. But if you are playing Destiny, if you've been on the fringe of going back to Destiny, at least to me, Drew, this feels like one of those, I would say, expansion packs that could potentially draw you back in.
Yeah, one other note that I meant to point out, they did make sure to say with this new expansion, and I think maybe I said it already, with the campaign, they said no more having to find lore cards and research to understand what's happening. They're going more like Halo. They specifically said that to make sure that the story is front and center and kind of hit you over the head with it, which is what Halo did and does, and that's okay because it makes it very accessible.
Yeah, I feel like that's better for players. Like, if you want to hide things in collectibles or whatever, I feel like good little details here and there, like a nice way to add on, like maybe a side quest relationship or something like that that's going on. But your main quest line, I feel like, make it very obvious to players. That's one way to help keep them around a little bit easier. The other thing I have before we just move on to the Xbox showcase, I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Gallahorn. What did this rocket launcher do? Why is it so good?
It was a badass, is what it was.
So
it was so good. It was so good.
So it took a bunch of the perks that you wanted on rockets and expanded on them. It had super aggressive tracking, not just casual homing like you would see with some rockets. Like, it would do some sharp curves to hit people. And then it would do the cluster bombs, like after the rocket hits, all these smaller explosions. But instead of those just falling randomly and exploding, they also tracked targets. So you could get a stupid amount of DPS on a single target, or if there's a mob, you could fire in the middle of the mob and just have all of those little projectiles seek out individual enemies and just clear the field. Stupidly awesome.
Oh yeah, that's broken as hell. That is definitely, that's like an aimbot built in with like a clustering aimbot. Like,
Joey's over there shocked as anything as you're describing that. His face was priceless that entire segment. That was great.
Well, it's funny. The thing that comes to mind is like Gears of War 5. I can't think of their name, Drew. You probably remember them, but all the little floaty guys, like the big like cluster of floaty guys. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, I'm just gonna do my hula dance. I can't think of the name of them.
What are you
talking about? I can't think of the name of that enemy.
Nemesis?
No, it was like in Gears 5, they're not the krill, whatever they were. Anyway, it's like this big thing that floats around and there's like hundreds of them. This is what I thought of when you mentioned that. I was like, that thing could probably wipe them out so quickly.
So no, Gallahorn was available from the special in-game vendor like the first weekend, and then it was never in the rotation until they nerfed it, and then it was in there for people to buy. So you had to find it in a raid chest or something, and it was super hard to find.
I mean, I kind of like that better, to be honest. Add that RNG, make people farm it. And it is the flock was the enemy I was thinking of, guys. The swarm flock. Okay, with that, anything else you want to touch on for Destiny before we slide our way into Microsoft's Xbox Gamescom show?
Give it a shot if you're curious.
Give it a shot if you're curious. I mean, of everything, I think the animation for this one looks fantastic. If I wasn't 3 or 4 years behind, I'd probably jump in a little bit easier. But being so far behind, it is a little tough, like John was saying, to kind of make that jump back in. Over to Xbox. Let's talk Microsoft Flight Sim. We don't have to spend a ton of time because we've mentioned this on the show before, but what they keep doing is these nice little monthly or bi-monthly updates of a few different countries. This time, in honor of Gamescom, which usually happens in Cologne, Germany, we are getting Germany, Austria, and Switzerland in this update, dropping on September 7th. New aerial imagery, high-resolution elevation maps, brand new 3D cities, and a couple other cool features. John, this one struck home to me, and I'm curious if it had the same effect to you, is the local legacy aircrafts. They're going to bring Junkers Ju-52, which I probably couldn't tell you what that aircraft is, but I love the idea of different local aircrafts kind of being highlighted with each of these updates moving forward.
Yeah. So this is really cool. Like, they're really trying to make Flight Sim a live service game, which is, it was never like this before. When it came to Microsoft Flight Simulator, there was a ton of like add-on packs, like third-party, add-ons that you could put on there to kind of make things really interesting or more realistic. And I love this because they're essentially doing it themselves, but they're still allowing creators out there to import stuff to the games too. But really at the same time, it's like looking at these graphics and looking at like all these cool, unique aircraft they're going to add in from time to time. I mean, if you're an aviation nerd, if you're an airplane nerd, if you just enjoy flying or you're curious as to kind of how it feels a little bit, I mean, why not give it a shot? I mean, it is absolutely beautiful. This game is stunning. I mean, really, there's no other game out there that even comes close to this. I think, Forza 5 is pretty darn close. But this is right up there with one of the best graphically engineered games I've ever seen.
And then as we're saying that, this is the Junkers, that local legacy plane popping up on stream for those here live with us. And previously you just saw the Velocity or the Velocity. I don't know how it's pronounced. They have the city capitalized, so I think it's Velocity. Air Taxi, that one is dropping in November 2021 as well.
And in all honesty, this plane looks a lot like the Ford Trimotor airplane with the two propellers on the wings and the one on the nose, I think. But I think the Ford was actually a high wing. This is a low wing aircraft. But that was one of the first commercial airliners back in the day of turboprops, which was really cool. So this is like a really cool throwback to that really early era before jet engines became the mainstream in the 70s. Yeah, I mean, let's think about that. Jet engines really became the mainstream in the 60s and 70s. It's insane to think.
That is crazy. And I love the cockpit they just showed on that one too, where it's fully glassed all around. Like, obviously you have to have glass in the front, but some nice glass panels on the side as well to kind of look at as you go. And then last but not least, with Flight Sim, Drew, I'll hop over to you here with this one. You could mention these two as well, but the other thing I want to throw your way is the partnership with RARA, and that is the Reno Air Racing Association. They're bringing the Steel National Championship Air Races, the world's fastest motorsport, to Flight Sim as well, kind of adding a little bit more of a PvP aspect in here too.
That's interesting. I don't think I saw that part of it. I didn't get to super pay attention to the whole thing, so that's very cool. That's going to be an in-game event? What? I need you to tell me more about that, Joey.
So I don't know a ton about it yet. They didn't really mention a ton. And John, maybe you heard a little bit more than I did. But from my perspective, I think they're bringing some of those planes that participate in those air races and kind of almost making it a little bit of a multiplayer segment. I think it's going to be a playlist that you can choose from to play in there.
That is very cool.
I
need to get into this.
If this ends up being like a PvP race kind of thing, first off, if you have never seen air racing, it is 100% worth watching. It is some intense racing out there. Like, it is great competition. It's really incredible. It takes a lot of skill to fly those planes the way they do. You're really pushing the envelope in multiple different ways on that aircraft. I mean, those airplanes are so specially tuned and high performance. Think of them as the Rolls Royce meets like a Bugatti in the air. It's absolutely insane. Yeah, and if that becomes a PvP mode in Microsoft Flight Sim, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of people are going to enjoy flying planes that feel like you're being shot off an aircraft carrier on a dime, turning a full 90 degrees, pulling 3.5 Gs into a turn to get through a hoop, then going straight vertical up to make it. It's incredible. It's awesome. 100%. I need that to happen right now.
Everything about this sounds like the airplane races in GTA. That's all I'm imagining.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of it. Do I think I could probably do it? I have a hard enough time in casual mode trying to get off the ground. So I don't know if I'm quite to that level yet. But I think my biggest thing, and John, I feel like you would feel the same way, is that they keep these two playlists separately. One of them is that high quality sim that's very realistic. You have some people even up in the towers playing it very realistically with role playing. This is one of those things that I feel like would kind of take that off kilter. So I feel like it has to stay separated in a different playlist for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And the VATSIM community, which really spearheaded the idea of realistic flight sim, having controllers out there. having that integrated into this, I mean, if you're looking for a legit immersive experience of what it's like to be a pilot, whether it's general aviation, whether it's commercial / airline or military or whatever, it is so cool with how they've integrated everything. I mean, before, if you wanted to be like an air traffic controller, or you wanted to like kind of see like your hand at it, you want to try to play the game a little bit differently, you really had to do it third party, and it was really no other way to kind of experience it. And now that it's built in, it's so cool. But yeah, keeping it separate is a smart thing. But it's just crazy to think that the last version of Microsoft Flight Sim that we got, which was like 10 plus years ago, which was still great, has now evolved into this masterpiece of a game / simulator. Now it's incredible to watch.
Absolutely. High intense graphics, the ability to really take into control all of that weather and the association with it to switch it from day to night very easily, or play that standard time. Just so many different options out there, and very well graphically done.
So I have to ask, have either of you played it on console with a controller yet?
Yes.
How is it?
A lot easier than a keyboard and mouse.
Easier. Interesting.
So the big thing is at least with the thumbstick on an Xbox, you have some pressure to go off of when you're manipulating the aircraft. On a keyboard and mouse, you don't have that. So it's essentially, you need to turn left, hypothetically speaking, you press A. Well, you press A, and what happens? Your plane does this. Because there's no way to control your bank. With a thumbstick, there's a way to control it. So it's actually a lot easier. Anyone who plays that game on keyboard and mouse, I'm sorry, you're doing it wrong. Get a controller. Best case, get a joystick. I know the prices for them are ridiculous right now because, again, it's been 10 plus years since you've actually needed one. But this is definitely a game that gets easier with a controller, and much, much easier if you have a joystick.
You heard it here, folks. Get your joysticks, grab your controllers, give a try to Flight Sim, whether you're on console or PC. It is available on both, as well as on Game Pass. Over to next up on the list is Wasteland 3. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this one, but it is a new expansion coming through, Cult of the Holy Detonation. Really cool idea here. So deep within the Cheyenne Mountains, there's a military complex. Mutant cults worship an ancient deity there they call the Holy Detonation. What is the Holy Detonation? It is a nuclear explosion held in stasis. On top of that, it's crammed with new characters, enemies, challenging combat encounters, and powerful new weapons and armor as well. I love the idea of this. If we're going to find this post-apocalyptic game and try to add something new, and obviously there's so many things already done in that category. We've seen them in movies, we've seen it in TV shows, video games before. One thing, to my knowledge, we have not seen is a nuclear explosion held in stasis. So I feel like this is a very new, fresh take on it, on the post-apocalyptic genre, and it kind of gives players a new area to explore. Again, new characters, new weapons, all that is great, but the whole basis of the storyline, I think, is phenomenal as well. Any of you guys Wasteland players out there? I tried it for a little bit. I got a couple levels in. I haven't really returned to it much since then. It is a very, very long game.
Yeah, I've actually never played it. I've always heard good things about it, but it's I don't know, Joey. I'm going to be the buzzkill here real quick. How in the world do you hold a nuclear explosion in stasis?
Sounds like you'll have to play the game to find out.
The
science just doesn't make sense.
The more you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's fine. No, yeah, I mean, it looks like a cool game that I think people who are a fan of the franchise will definitely enjoy it. But other than that, I mean, it's not a game that, it's definitely not a game for everyone, for sure. For sure. It's I'm not going to call it a niche game, but it's definitely a game for a certain type of player, which does make it kind of cool. But it's, having DLC come out for a game to extend its life is really, really cool. So I think the Wasteland players will be happy with this.
All I thought of when I saw the title was Megaton in Fallout 3, where you have this nuke at the center of town that half the people worship and half the people are terrified of, and you can make it go off. So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of got those same vibes, same kind of vibes coming in, but it is a little bit different. It is a nice little mountain-based thing going on here. So we'll see how that goes when it does drop later. I believe it's September 1st is when that, no, that's State of Decay. I don't know when Wasteland Holy Detonation comes out. We'll have to look that one up. But next on the list is State of Decay 2. That's the return to Trumbull Valley. This is one of those games where you're going back to where it started in the original. Kind of like we talked about some of those similarities with Destiny 2 bringing in Destiny 1 content. This one, the original map of the first State of Decay game, is coming to State of Decay 2 in a remastered open-world playable format. It is dropping on Wednesday, September 1st, bringing new characters, storylines, bases, weapons, outfits, missions, achievements, and more. Any of you guys State of Decay players, I've downloaded it. I've never played it. It looks interesting to me, but I think I'm going to hold out for State of Decay 3.
Yeah, I have the ship set on Sea of Thieves.
Oh, yeah. That's a sick ship set.
That's about it, though.
Nope, I haven't.
Drew, are you slaying up some zombies?
Nope, I haven't touched it. It's one that looks good. And even if I don't end up touching it, I love that they took the first game and brought it into the second one. I think that's really cool. For some reason, that is something gamers love, is that retro, that throwback, that ability to access what they had before. So it's just a really brilliant move on their part, and I think will hold people over until the inevitable State of Decay 3 comes out.
Oh, and it's a way to do it, and it's a way to remaster and refresh it as well. Like, even in multiplayer games, like those classic Halo maps or those classic Gears of War or Call of Duty, whenever they pull some of those maps in, I feel like players go wild. It's that nostalgia kind of drawing in. You get the new player base finally experiencing it for the first time, in a sense. So there's just so many good little vibes coming from it, and I feel like there's really no harm in doing it either. You will get some of those people that are like, give us new content. We don't want the old stuff again. But I feel like State of Decay has released enough new content that they are cool with something like this as well.
I really think the people that have a hard time with seeing old content remastered coming back, I don't think they really understand like what kind of emotion that can provide a gamer. Metal Gear Solid is always going to be a game that I love. It's a series I played from a child all the way up into adulthood. In Metal Gear Solid 4, when you go back to Shadow Moses, which is where the original Metal Gear Solid took place, yes, it's remastered. Yes, you get there a completely different way than you did in the first game. And what did they do? They added in audio clues as you go through, or audio triggers that have old voice lines that pop up and play as a whisper. Or they have old cutscenes that come back to remind you of what happened in that newly remastered place. And it's such a trip down memory lane. It's so nostalgic for the gamer. Personally, I know it wasn't just myself, but there were a lot of people from the Metal Gear Solid fandom that had a hard time getting through that level because of all the emotion they felt going back through there. I personally love the idea of bringing back old content remastered, because that's going to hit home to your true loyal fans that love that game. Yeah, it was, State of Decay 1. Yeah, there's time has passed between 1 and 2, and 3 is going to be coming out who knows whenever, but it's still something that the hardcore lover of your franchise is going to love and cherish in their gaming life. I think it's incredibly smart.
Well, and if they've taken the time to remaster 1 for 2,
yeah,
it's probably not much of a leap to make it available in 3 at some point as well. They've shown that they'll do that. That's a good enough reason to go ahead and upgrade to 3, is knowing that they're probably going to bring you the other stuff.
And I think 3 is going to be a different game in a sense too. Like State of Decay 2, I would not call a AAA game. I think State of Decay 3 is easily going to be a AAA game. So you're going to have much higher graphics, much more, really just a bigger budget overall. That's going to push new features. It's going to push a bigger development team. Probably a lot more DLC coming out as well. And then with it being Game Pass, it's a lot easier to add that DLC into a whole bunch of players just from day one. So we'll see what it ends up looking like. But yeah, I think bringing this content forward, maybe continuing some of it forward in State of Decay 3, whether it be nice little throwbacks or full-on content as well, I think it's a good move either way. Sliding on, speeding things up a little bit for the Xbox section, though. The Gunk, this one, guys, is high on my radar. I feel like you guys have put it pretty decently up there on yours as well, but one of my highly anticipated indie games for the year. The Gunk is the first 3D project from the team behind the well-known Steam World series, and it is set to launch this year with a target date of December 2021. Anyone else going to be cleaning up Gunk with me on this planet?
I mean, why not? I mean, it's... it's right up there with hopefully getting people motivated to stop destroying our own planet. But hey, we'll save the video game one first. How about that? No, it's completely fine. We'll go and keep politics out of it here. Yeah, no, I think the game looks great. The idea behind it Isn't it true? Don't you judge me. I see you over there with your camera going out of focus. It's okay. It's been happening to me all day too. I think the game is unique. I think it looks great. I think the idea behind it is completely fine. It's definitely a game that Joey, yes, I will clean Gunk up with you, sir. Absolutely.
Perfect. I'm excited. Drew, what are your thoughts on the Gunk?
I'm the same. It just looks cool. It looks different. I'm sure the mechanics will feel familiar once you start, but it's different enough that I'm excited to give it a shot, and we'll definitely be diving into it, especially, with Game Pass. Thank goodness for Game Pass.
Sweet. So we'll be cleaning up Gunk when that one drops December 2021. Next up, not one to spend a ton of time on, but I think it's worth mentioning for one reason in particular. Crusader Kings 3 is getting a console edition with completely new modified controls to better suit controller players in their living room. So for those who haven't played Crusader Kings 3, think of Civilization 5 or 6 and just go a whole lot deeper, especially on the relationship side. There's a lot more that can be done as far as tying different areas together with relationships, whether it be in your own country or with other countries. It's really like a more in-depth Civ, which is crazy to think about. But this adapting to console, I think, is big. This could be the start of more of these games going to console, whether it be RTSs like Age of Empires. I don't think you see StarCraft, but Age of Empires should be a pretty quick one to move over there, with it being Xbox and Microsoft. There could be some other ones as well as far as the strategy genre, but that to me is the biggest thing here. I think Crusader Kings is a great game. I think the idea of what this could unlock later on is even bigger, though.
I'm sorry, did anybody else see the baby with a snake in its cradle? Like, was I the only one that was like, why is there a snake in the baby's cradle at the beginning? Like, what does that have to do with this game? Like, I just, it's whatever.
Foretelling the crazy things to come.
Snakes. It's the French called it.
Snakes in a Cradle coming to theaters near you. Anything else you want to say on Crusader Kings, Drew?
I haven't done much with Crusader Kings, so I'm kind of excited to give it a shot once it's on console. See how I feel about it. It looks cool, but I just don't ever touch PC games much.
There you go. Well, if you don't like taking over the world in Crusader Kings, you will get another shot in Age of Empires 4. This one currently only for PC. We didn't really see much new gameplay. Sure, there were some shots here and there. We got a little bit of some cinematics as well. In the end, this one was a path I wasn't expecting. One I think I'm okay with. It didn't seem like too many gamers were super stoked about it, but I personally liked it. They revealed a hands-on history, a new storytelling element in the upcoming Age of Empires game. It's going to be 28 unlockable videos where they're going to show you like what... I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. We saw one of them on a trebuchet. It pretty much jumped into like what the trebuchet is, what it means, how it was useful in war. And they're going to do that with a few different troop types and structure types. I think they're even going to do it within some of the stuff within the castle walls, but just kind of giving an idea of what this was in medieval history or Iron Age or whatever age we're in at the time of Age of Empires and what it meant to the people and how it was used effectively.
Now, if I can tell you why I love that idea real quick. Age of Empires has always been a game for the history nerd, for the history buff that wants to play really unique and crazy moments in human history. And let's be real here, Joey. Prior to that video, the video on the trebuchet, did you know how it worked? Did you understand how they aimed that dang thing? Because I sure as heck didn't. I'm watching them. It's like, you know what? I didn't realize they essentially had two hamster wheels on the side that people would run to cock it back with the counterweight up front. Like, I thought it was incredibly neat. Like, before I would just build the dang thing because it could take walls down like crazy. But now I haven't, like, and don't get me wrong. I fall in this category. I love Age of Empires. I love history. I love playing these moments in history through a video game. So yes, include the videos. Give me more history through a video game. I think it's great. The people who just want to play a game for the sake of playing the game, that added content's not for you. I'm pretty sure you can skip over it. But I guarantee you the true fans of this series are going to absolutely love the added content.
Well, it's a cool way to add that education level as well. So it kind of makes it a little bit easier for parents to say, sure, go ahead and play that game for a little while, or even include it into a classroom, like a history classroom as well. The other thing with the trebuchet, I don't know if you guys heard this, but they talked a little bit about the big stone balls that they threw and how they made them. But they also dove into like napalm and beehives and dead bodies and like all of the reasons that these different things were used as weapons launched from the trebuchet. Thought it was absolutely fascinating.
So cool.
So cool. So if you guys want to launch into that one, it comes out in October. 28 of those unlockable videos so far. Who knows if more get added in DLC later down the road, but for now, that is what we'll be kicking things off with. Next up on the Xbox stream was the big hitter, the biggest contender. That is going to be the Forza Horizon 5, 8 additional minutes of pure gameplay. Guys, we saw cargo planes. We saw cars dropping from cargo planes. I was like, please, God, tell me this is not a battle royale game. Then from there, they went to an active volcano. They raced to the Horizon Festival and more. We got the cover cars shown as well. That is the Mercedes AMG 1 and the 2021 Ford Bronco Badlands. Shout out to Min over there with her Ford Bronco. Lots of good stuff, though. I think the cover cars are nice, but for me, the highlight was the active volcano. I think that is just such a sick thing to throw into this game.
Talk about the two most different cars to put on your cover, a Ford Bronco and a Mercedes Benz. Just to me, I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. I love it, though. I love it. I think it's great.
A great juxtaposition. It's your two fan bases there. Yep.
Oh God, your Ford fans and your Mercedes fans are your two fan bases.
I mean, I think it's one of those things too that kind of demonstrates like all the different landscapes, because obviously you get the desert, you have the jungle, the river, the volcano. It kind of shows how much variety is coming in this game.
And really, I mean, you've got people who are like big time car guys, and then you got people that they just want to drive the most ridiculous things possible.
True.
Yeah, you get a little bit of that, you get a little bit of this, and there will be God knows how many cars. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of cars in here. But a lot of good options. And last but not least, they left us with a very nice limited edition wireless controller, which you guys live on stream with us are seeing right now. It's inspired by the powder fireworks that go off during the Horizon Festival. And guys, unfortunately, it is already sold out.
It looks amazing, though. It looks fantastic.
It looks so good. That controller came out phenomenally. Hopefully they restock and give us some more of those to order if anyone in here wants to check one out.
Wonder if they got Xbox Pope or whatever he's going by now to do that.
Yeah, Pope Art, I think is what he changed his name to. So yeah, we'll have to see if he drops some good old Forza stuff. The last thing in the Xbox Showcase, not a game, but a feature, and one to just discuss before we head into opening night live, and that is cloud gaming coming to Xbox consoles. This holiday, Xbox Game Pass Ultimate members will be able to play 100 plus games right from Microsoft's cloud servers on their consoles with a click of a button. An easier way to play and try games without waiting for downloads. This is huge. You look at a game like Call of Duty, for example. That sucker is, I don't even know, 150 gigabytes at this point. This is a way to download that game and just play it on cloud. So you're downloading it in the background. You're already jumping in and playing on cloud. I think that's phenomenal. The other thing that this brings here that I think a lot of people are not quite noticing and putting one and two together is this is a way to bring Xbox One owners forward as well. So whether you're a day one Xbox One owner and you haven't had a chance to get a Series X, or you can't quite afford a Series X yet, or you're just not ready to make the jump to the new console generation, you can play these new games that will eventually be next-gen console only, still on your Xbox One through cloud gaming. Now, it's going to be a little bit slower. There's going to be a tiny bit of latency here compared to like actually on the hardware, but it's a way to play the game still. Instead of having to wait months upon months to possibly get a console, instead of having to spend $500 to get that console, it is an easier way to access those next-gen games.
Not to mention the hard drive space savings.
Yeah, that too.
Just stream them and not have to keep them stored, because that gets annoying fast.
Hard drives, money, time, scalpers, it's all hard to navigate. But in the end, I think this is a nice quality of life feature coming out there from the Xbox team. Okay, guys, just over 40 minutes in, we are right on pace with where we should be so far, and we are ready to dive into opening night live. It happened today. Jeff Keighley, once again, coming out. We've seen him do the Game Awards at the end of the year in December. We've seen him do great stuff with Summer Game Fest, kicking off the first opening night live this year in June, and now we had another one here at Gamescom. They kicked it off with a nice little pre-show, not too much being shown here. We had King of Fighters 15, 9 to 5, a new 3v3 tac shooter, Bus Simulator 2021, the Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ashes, Dolmen, and a few others. A couple that I want to hit on, though. Nobody Saves the World. And this one's coming from Drinkbox and from the creators of Guacamelee. I really like the idea of this game. This is one that hyped people up. I think it was shown in an Xbox Indie show maybe a couple months ago. Now it's coming out. We've got a few more details on it, some of the craziness that you can do in the game here. So online co-op, it's one of my most anticipated indies as well. Did you guys get a chance to see this one? And if so, what are your thoughts on it?
I had to find the video real quick. I was playing the wrong one.
It was in the pre-show. I don't think it's in the main thing. I didn't put that there.
I didn't get to see the pre-show. I honestly didn't even remember that they were doing a pre-show, but I remember playing Guacamelee, and I really enjoyed that. It was just a fun, kind of goofy game. And looking at this, I'm getting some Guacamelee vibes, so it looks fun. I think it'd be a good time waster. I'd be willing to jump in and give it a go.
A good time waster. I'm pretty sure the devs would love to hear that.
Yeah, that's a great marketing term.
Check out this new game. It's a great way to waste your life away until you die.
Let's say time sink. How about time sink?
That doesn't sound better. I don't know.
Okay.
Time waster, I thought was a compliment. It sounds like a compliment to me. If I'm willing to waste my time on it, it must be good.
Oh, there you go. That's a good way to put it. I like that.
I guess.
I mean, it looks super interesting. Like, you can play as an egg, you can play as an archer, you can play as a magician. There's all these different characters, and you can combine them together to save the world, in a sense. It has co-op, so we can all kind of jump in there and play it together. It looks like a very weird. It's weird and wacky, but it kind of unlocks that creativity in doing so. Nobody wants to save the world here on the podcast except for me. But that one is on my list, guys, if you want to check it out. Nobody Saves the World. I don't think early 22, so no official release date, just a time window for now. Again, by the famous Drinkbox, who was behind Guacamelee as well. Next up in the pre-show, and we won't spend too much time on this one, it is Dream Cycle. This one comes from the original developers behind the Tomb Raider series. So Tomb Raider being extremely popular, Lara Croft, it really popular as both the game as well as a movie. This is one of those things that's kind of spanned time over the last couple decades. Now they're coming out with a new IP, and it is Dream Cycle, which you're seeing here on stream.
It's very cool looking. It's kind of trippy. There's some horror to it, but it's still that exploration. Like, very, very Dungeons and Dragons meets Nathan Drake.
Oh,
Dungeons and Dragons meets Nathan Drake. I like that.
That's a very unique description of it. I like it.
Yeah, very, very unique. What are your guys' thoughts on the graphic style there? I don't know if I love it yet, but I feel like it's also almost like that alpha look, so I feel like it should get sharper as we go on, but I'm not super sold on the graphics.
I think it has potential. It definitely has potential. You can see it. I agree with you. I think it does feel more like an alpha release that we saw on screen. I would expect them to sharpen it up. I mean, right now, I'm fine with it. If that's how the game released, then I might have mixed feelings.
I don't know if it's the style that they're going for and it just needs to be a little sharper, or if that is what they want it to look like.
Right. It kind of feels like a weird in between. Like, it could be sharper, it could be more crisp, but it could also be that art style. So that's the only part I'm not really sure how I feel about. And we obviously don't know anything about the story yet. So we'll have to see what they bring to the table. But I love Tomb Raider. I think it's a great franchise. One of the few games or really game series that I've enjoyed going back and forth to. So we'll have to see what they bring here with this next one, Dream Cycle. Next up, we head to the main stage, ladies and gentlemen, with Saints Row. Saints Row is coming back. It has got a new life here in this new game, set to come out in February 2022, currently set for February 25th. We get a nice little fun cinematic. They talked about the 3 gangs in the city and then a very, very brief look at gameplay. I feel like all of us, this was the game that stood out the most probably throughout the showcase. John, what were your thoughts on this one?
Okay, so Joey, Drew, we all love watching these kinds of conferences when it comes to, seeing newly remastered games, re-releases, and new titles, and seeing what's coming down the pipeline when it comes to gaming for the next year or so. This is an example of starting a show out right, but then setting the bar way too high from the get-go. This was absolutely incredible. Easily one of 3 highlighted moments of this entire show, and you literally do it within the first 30 seconds of your main event. I think that's great if that was to set the tone for the rest of the show, which it really didn't. So I saw this, I was hyped, I was excited. I think it looks great. The cinematic is absolutely fantastic. It was funny. It had that humor, it had action, had explosions, had everything you wanted in a cinematic for a game that a lot of people love in the gaming world. And then right after it, it just went downhill real quick. So for Saints Row, it's not a knock on them. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it. But for Gamescom, I feel like you set the bar a little too high by putting this first.
I'll be honest, I've never actually played any of the Saints Row games. I have Saints Row 3 with all of its various things. I might have even gotten Saints Row 4. I can't remember. But they've always looked great. And this will absolutely be the first one that I play because everything about it looks amazing and I can get in on it from the start instead of feeling like I'm playing something that everyone else has already discovered. I am stoked.
So I'll be honest. Fun fact: I've never played Saints Row either. It's kind of been one of those games that I feel like it's always been in the shadow of GTA almost. Like when that GTA game comes out, it's the big thing. It's the thing everyone wants to jump into. And then there's Saints Row, which kind of has a similar feel to it. Sure, there's some differences here and there, but it feels like almost everyone gravitates to GTA, at least on a general audience perspective. But this is one of those games with a big cult following. I say cult, but it's also a pretty good size following behind it as well. And I think this is going to be a big game. I think this is one that a lot of people will be drawn to, dropping in a very, very big February month of next year where there's a lot of big games coming out. Anything else you guys want to say on Saints Row? I don't know if there's any, I don't think we got any details on if there's any kind of like co-op mode or anything like that. So we'll have to probably wait and see on that. I think the idea of 3 main gangs is a good idea. I feel like 2 is a little too simple. 3 kind of adds a little bit more of the storyline into it. So I do like that decision there as well.
It just looks fun. The story looks great, and I love the humor.
I like the humor a lot. I think the humor is really well done in the cinematic. And explosions. Who doesn't like big explosions in games?
Boom.
It's like a Michael Bay film. Next up, and this kind of goes with what you were saying earlier, John, they started very strong. Saints Row came out very strong. The next couple games, super strong as well. And then it kind of just takes a little bit of a dive afterwards. Next up was Midnight Suns. This is a new Marvel game coming from Take-Two. This is the other Marvel game for those that listen to LvLUp normally. This is the other one that was teased from John and I back around E3 time. I think we mentioned it in March and April, thinking it was going to go to E3. I'll take credit for that because I did think it was going to go there, and I was wrong. All we did get was Guardians of the Galaxy. Now this one coming out here, we finally got to see what it looks like. I think this looks phenomenal. They didn't really show too much on the gameplay side, but as far as cinematics go, this is top notch.
So I don't know. Go ahead.
No, you first, please.
I don't know how familiar you all are with comic book lore, but the Midnight Suns is an awesome team. I'm super stoked that they're getting a game because who they are and their style fits so well. I mean, you got Doctor Strange, you got Ghost Rider, a couple of the other magicians are in there as well. And then they've got this idea of a new character that they've created with Marvel to be your main character that you get to design and be this person that's a real character. That's so cool. The comic book geek in me is losing my mind.
Yeah, and I think that's the big point here is that for me, I'm not a big comic book fan when it comes to like overall universes. Like I'll read a Spider-Man and Deadpool comic. I'll read a Star Wars comic. I'm not going to go out and buy a comic just because it's in the Marvel universe. Like I have to have an attachment to a specific character or a universe or something like that, kind of like a Star Wars. And even in Star Wars, don't get me wrong, I don't read everything either. So for this, like you said, Drew, people who have read those comics for the Midnight Suns for Marvel, they're going to be hyped just like you are. The idea of being able to create your own superhero and play him in game, I think that sells it for 99.9% of nerds out there that want to be a superhero. I think that's really, really cool. It's a really unique mashup. I'm going to pause it here on screen real quick if I can. I mean, like there's Iron Man, there's Wolverine in there.
Cap. I see Captain Marvel.
There's Cap in there, like you said. Yeah, I mean, it's not the Avengers, that's for sure. Because you don't have my boy Spider-Man in there, but it's fine. Don't worry, I won't worry about it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's such a unique thing to have you, the player, create a character and you get to team up with all of these other amazing superheroes. And it kind of really helps bring those heroes to life. And now you can have kind of like that personal connection with the hero you create in game. I think that knocks it out of the park. I think this might be one of the best Marvel video games to come out in a very long time.
So they started it with the number 1 and number 2 in that order on the showcase.
Well, yeah. I'm gonna throw a wrench in the system here because I'm curious to see if your guys' opinion is going to change after this. The one thing they don't show with this trailer is what type of game it is. If you're going to take a guess, what type of game do you think this is? Because they haven't revealed it yet, technically.
They said it in the interview afterwards.
Did they?
A tactical RPG is how they described it.
Okay. Do you know what a tactical RPG is?
I don't know exactly what the gameplay will look like, but I know it involves your relationship with your squad and the heroes that you choose to be part of your team. That is a very important part of your actual combat, not even just your skills or your weapons, but having a good team is important.
So, to my understanding, and I could be understanding this wrong, I feel like this trailer is amazing, but it's very misleading as well. So, this game, to my knowledge, is going to play like XCOM. It's going to be like Gears Tactics,
Oh.
where it's more like a strategy tactic type of game where you're moving these players instead of playing from a first person perspective.
Fire Emblem Marvel.
Kind of, yeah. Like very similar to like Gears Tactics or XCOM if you played them before. And it's from the creator of XCOM as well. Now, I could be wrong. That I've not seen gameplay myself, but that's what I've heard it's supposed to be.
I'm still in.
I
so
may
it's a little bit
not,
different. I feel like it's misleading.
I may not be as in if it is.
Yeah. Cinematic looks phenomenal, and I hope the gameplay is great. That's just one of those disclaimers. Again, created by XCOM, tactical RPG, which is that same kind of style of game that they do. So it could be a different perspective, but it is one thing to keep in mind. We eventually get that gameplay, I think, next week. Okay, not to bring everyone down on that one, but it was a cool cinematic. But it is one of those ones that kind of misleads a little bit. Potentially, I could be wrong. Next up, we did have Call of Duty Vanguard. This is a game we've talked about on LvLUp before. It's had some trouble development. Activision moved a number of teams over to assist with it, to help polish it up, to help get it ready. It's going to launch with something like 20 maps for multiplayer. It's going to have a nice suite to come with it, but we did finally get a look at the campaign. Laura Bailey is in it. I believe Polina is the character she's playing. Laura Bailey's phenomenal. Kate Diaz in Gears of War. I believe she's in The Last of Us as well. Looking at this campaign look, we see a little bit of a rifle, some shotgun play, some sniper play. The person playing behind the character here, I don't think was the greatest at aiming, but it was nice to see what they brought to the table. We got some light environmental destruction as well, some silent takedowns with a knife, which is a little bit more gritty than we've typically seen in some Call of Duty games. What were your thoughts overall on Call of Duty Vanguard, John? We'll start with you. It is a Call of Duty. It's still in that same kind of genre, but it is bringing a little bit of a different perspective to the table.
I kind of like it. Like if you're going to go back to World War II, which I think is a great idea, adding different kind of mechanics into the game, I think is great, making it special and different. So it doesn't feel like we're just turning the clock back 15 years and going back to the World War II Call of Duty games constantly. I like it. It feels like they incorporate a lot of elements of stealth. Yeah, they definitely made it more grittier. But I think there's something to be said about that, especially with how we've seen the Call of Duty titles throughout the years. It feels like every other year, 18 months essentially, come out. They take different kind of risks. To me, this feels like it has like the grit and the darkness of like a modern warfare added into the World War II era with this kind of gameplay style. I like it. I think it looks great. It definitely has me intrigued. This is what I was waiting to see. If you're going to get me to come back to Call of Duty and play Call of Duty, this gameplay trailer has me excited now, being able to see what studios are able to do graphically with games now, and then applying it to the World War II era, incorporating a lot of new engines and mechanics into the game. I think it looks great and has me excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about this one too. I feel like it brings that Call of Duty edge from that World War II era, but it almost feels like it pulls in some of that Dishonored, if you guys have played Dishonored or Dishonored 2. A little bit more of that stealth mechanic that you were mentioning there, John. Drew, what are your thoughts on the new look of the campaign?
Oh, I am so excited. I've bought several Call of Duties in the last 5 or 6 years, maybe every other one, maybe every other third one, and then I play it for a week and then I get done. But I could see me really diving into this one. It's great that it's so obvious, the stealth stuff, because they did say that this was kind of teasing and exploring the birth of special operations, of spec ops. So stealth and those kind of takedowns are a huge part of that. But just the look. So my first real experience with military shooter games was not Call of Duty, Medal of Honor Frontline on the PlayStation 2. And this gives me a lot of that same feeling. Obviously very different games, but that really being there and that grit and that making it real. I get those same vibes from this and it looks like, in my head what that game looks like, because boy, that game doesn't look like that now if you go back and check it out. So I am excited. I love this story already.
Yeah, it looks really good. And I think the other cool thing they're bringing to the table is that they're giving you 4 unique perspectives. So you're only seeing one here. I believe Polina, if I remember correctly, is the Russian side of the story. I'm not 100% sure on that. But you're going to get a few different ones as well. I think there's like an Australian/British one. There might be a straight up British one. There's a US one, I think.
Okay.
I might be missing one. There might be a German one in there. Not 100% sure. But in the end, you're getting some different perspectives, which I like them breaking the campaign up that way as well. Anything else on Call of Duty in this nice little look through? They do eventually make their way to 1 hour before, which is kind of cool to see the difference between this like destruction we're seeing here on the initial show versus kind of that initial bombing that we do see eventually come in here later on in the trailer. But I don't think there's too much else to touch on here for COD.
I just like that this seems like the game that they're going to have all of the different things that people want. It's going to have a massive campaign. It's going to have zombies. It's going to have massive multiplayer. I assume there will be Spec Ops missions since they're introducing Spec Ops, but I don't know that. But it's everything instead of just, oh, this is just a multiplayer or this is just zombies. It's all of it, which is very cool. It hasn't been done in a while.
Yeah, and you still have Warzone going along as well. So you're going to have that running with kind of a new map, some new vehicles and weapons. So they are going very much all out here, especially with all the different teams working on it as well. Okay, so we had pretty much, I would argue, possibly our top 3 games of the night are already here right at the front end of the actual opening night live show. But then we keep going and we have the biggest searched game of the night, the one that pulled in the most Google searches at least, and that is Halo Infinite. We finally got a release date. It is December 8th, 2021, the latest release date of the ones that I had heard before. We got a nice CGI cinematic with unique Spartan looks. It's kind of the intro to the first multiplayer season is the way they described it. They also confirmed campaign and multiplayer will be shipping together as well. And then we get a nice look at a new anniversary console and controller. Before we dive into that, what were your guys' thoughts on the cinematic and this new introduction to Season 1? Drew, we'll kick it off with you.
I love this giving multiplayer a story. They've done it with the last couple Halo games where you're on the UNSC Infinity and you're a new Spartan recruit or something to that effect. Give there a reason for your existence, not just you're a clone of the Master Chief fighting other clones of the Master Chief because video games. So it looks really cool, and they peppered the music in there perfectly. It did all those things that it's supposed to do and touch all those buttons that makes you just nostalgic and excited. And it was a great distraction from the lack of campaign trailer.
So I think that's the next big thing. And John, we'll switch over to you for that. I felt like they had to show campaign here. We haven't seen really much of anything from campaign since that, in a sense, some people will call it disastrous July 2020 showing of that 10 minutes of campaign. I personally didn't think it was terrible. Obviously, it's gotten much better since then with the different polish we've seen come into the game. But what are your thoughts of them deciding not to show any campaign trailer here, whether it be CGI or gameplay at all?
It was the second biggest mistake after putting Saints Row first to start the show off. You look, I mean, who doesn't love a good CGI trailer? I think it's absolutely fantastic. But the problem is it's not what people wanted to see. It's not what gamers wanted to see. And that's the problem. From what little gameplay footage we saw, how many ever months ago that caused a lot of controversy, this was a great time to really put some duct tape over those people's mouths, metaphorically, if you will. And you didn't do it. I feel like it was just a big swing and a miss. I'm not going to say it was a strikeout, but it was definitely not what people were expecting. It's not what they should have done. Like, even if it was a 15-second gameplay footage, I feel like that would have been enough to really like solidify some of these people. But instead, we just got a CGI trailer that was kind of cool. And then we got a really, 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 really long interview afterwards.
Okay, the interview wasn't that long.
It felt long. It felt real long.
So do we think their plan here is they want to get as many people invested and excited about multiplayer as possible, since it is going to be free to play? You can count on the Halo fans to come for the campaign. That's probably not up for debate. They could expand that a little bit, but multiplayer is where the money is at. Is that their strategy, you think?
Go ahead, John. I'm curious your thoughts.
I mean, there has been a pretty big mindset change in game development over the past 15 years where before people would buy it for the story, where you had a story that took 16 to 18 to 22 hours of actual gameplay to beat. Like, that was the challenge. It was a platformer. It was a story-based game. It was, something that you were trying to get a message across. Now we've seen games really switch to focus on multiplayer, online PvP, being accessible to everyone who wants to play, given that unique experience every time you log on versus a set structured story. In the past 10 to 15 years, we've seen story modes shrink from at the most around 22 hours down to 8 to 10 hours, maybe even less than that, because the focus now has solely been on multiplayer. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like one of the big pushes for Halo coming back and making a big splash is multiplayer because they're trying to get Halo esports up and running. So I feel like that was probably what they were trying to accomplish, is getting people excited for PvP, for multiplayer online, like you're saying, Drew. But even with that, I don't think the CGI trailer was enough to get people excited for just the idea of Halo PvP, online Halo, and Halo esports. I think it looks great, but gameplay footage, even from a PvP perspective, even if you showed some footage from that test run a couple weeks ago that we had the honor to be a part of, it looked great. It felt great. That's what they should have gone with, in all honesty, over a CGI trailer, which, again, still fine, but nothing replaces game footage in the story.
Yeah, 100% with you. And that's what I was going to say as well. If they want to drive home the multiplayer, they already did a really good job of that in July with what they showed there. Then they had the follow-up at the extended showcase or whatever it was called. I think was really good too. 343 put out like a video blog, phenomenal. The multiplayer they have driven home. People are sold on the multiplayer. It is done. If you wanted to, you could do what John said there and throw in some like tech preview footage. I think that would have been cool. I mean, there's so many good cuts of like streamers playing the game and like popping off or like having these great moments in game or like grappling, hooking these power weapons and then finishing people off. Like, it was sick. They could have easily did like a sizzle reel of that. And we know they kill it with sizzle rolls. This wasn't it for me. Like, I like it. I like the idea of this like multiplayer season with a nice cinematic. This just, to me, was not the place to do it. You have to be there. You're Halo. You're one of the biggest games coming out this year. This is kind of your next biggest event after E3. You have to put something in here. This, to me, just kind of missed the mark a little bit. They did go on a little bit more, though. They did show us a anniversary console and controller. Unfortunately, listeners that are listening to this later, they've already sold out. They sold out in the first couple minutes. Yeah, shocker. Probably some scalpers involved there as well, but they are all gone. With that being said, I like the look of them. I don't know if this is a showcase that needed to be done for them, though. I feel like that could have been shown even on like a Twitter or Instagram thing. I don't necessarily think it needed to be like a big deal type of thing. I think they would have fit better in the Xbox showcase, to be honest. The little Xbox showcase they did on Tuesday, I think would have been a great place to put those in. This is where campaign gameplay of some sort needed to go.
It is at least the Elite controller that they showed.
It is. And it looks great. I think it looks phenomenal.
To go along with the console controller bundle that I may or may not be willing to exchange my console for. We'll see.
Look, here's my thing. I would love to see an actual study if these Elite Pro gaming controllers actually make a difference. Because if is it worth
the study?
Is it worth the $200 controller though? I mean, like if unless you are a stupid high level pro, that might make the argument the additional trigger buttons on the back end of the Elite controller, make a major difference. I would argue that 98% of gamers out there really don't need a controller like that.
I would agree with that. I think, but you don't even just have to be the super sweaty pro. I think even just streamers being able to, map different button combinations would be really useful. Let you do more stuff, show off a little bit, that kind of stuff. It's not for 95%+ of gamers, but it does make that big a difference if you want it to.
I mean, or you can
one yet.
You can also use it and then get absolutely trashed on by your chat for how bad you are using a $200 controller. But I will say this, that console does look pretty sweet. I'm going to rewind that and pause it here real quick. That actually does look sick. 100%. I mean, the Xbox Series X, and again, this is coming from someone who's been on PlayStation his entire life up until this yeah, Drew's pointing into his little black box over there on his TV. Well done, Drew. I'm very impressed.
Product placement.
The Series X might be the most customizable style of console. Like, doing things like this for limited edition consoles makes it so easy because it is literally a gigantic rectangle. That's all it is. It's not a PlayStation 5 router. It's not a PlayStation 4, where really the only thing they did there was just change the color of the console for their Destiny launch, because I still have my white PlayStation 4 Destiny launch console. The PlayStation 3, you couldn't really do it on because that thing looked awful. The PlayStation 2 looked weird, and the PlayStation 1, well, graphics on consoles weren't a thing then. So yeah, I think this is the start of a lot of special edition consoles for Xbox, and I think Halo set the bar really high with how good this looks.
Yeah, it just feels easy with like the 4 plates. And I feel like PlayStation 5, it does have a weird shape to it, but it also has those 2 plates that I think will eventually be a little bit more customized as we move forward in the generation. But yeah, as far as custom console goes, this is probably one of the nicest ones I've seen. Anything else on Halo? I feel like we all feel like they missed the mark a little bit. I think it is worth noting, and this comes from Benji Sales on Twitter. He was looking at the Google search results shortly after the show. Halo dominated pretty much the whole show long throughout search results. So regardless, if we're not really feeling the best about what was shown here, it does seem like they're still doing very well. And also on Steam, they already made their way into the top 5 sellers for the week. And that's just a couple minutes after they ended up going live with those sales for the campaign only. That's $60 for the campaign.
I am still stoked. It's probably still my #1 most anticipated game, just not my #1 of the show, as for all the reasons we've discussed.
I honestly think I'm there with you as well. I think it's my top anticipated game. I'm nervous about the campaign. I feel like they're going to get the story right this time. They screwed up with 5. They got a lot of negative feedback. Joseph Staten being there again, I think, is going to help that direction. So I'm not worried about the story. I'm worried about the bugginess. This is the first open world Halo game. It's like, I think they said it's double the size of Halo 4 and 5 together, which is insane to think about, that map size. So that, to me, with them taking a new approach and making it so much bigger all at once, and then you have the whole COVID thing on top of that, where it makes Q&A testing so much harder. I feel like quality assurance and the potential bugs we might get, I hope they're not Cyberpunk level. I think we're going to get a crisp multiplayer, but I'm nervous about the bugginess of the campaign.
I don't want to pull us too far into another conversation so we can move on, but I remember playing Halo 3 ODST, and it had a pseudo open world type part of the game where you moved between missions and you could randomly have to fight stuff. So they've done, well, I guess that was Bungie, but Halo has had that before. So we know it can work with this world. It's just, how do they actually execute it? That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, Drew, this is very big open world.
Oh,
like, the way they have described it is, if you see mountains in the background, you can climb the mountains. You can literally, if John wanted to, he could jump off the side of the Halo ring. Like, it is ginormously open world. And I feel like they're going to encounter bugs with that overall. Like, especially the whole like day and night cycle, and enemies are going to change based on that. There could be bugs related to that. Just the way they do patrols. There's different stealth aspects. There's rescuing people here and there. It just feels like it is so hella ambitious. And with everything going on with COVID, I think they open themselves up to potential bugs. I think the story is going to be good. I think they're going to revive that story in a sense. And the multiplayer, just based on the tech preview we played, is probably the best multiplayer in all of Halo. And I know Halo 3 and Halo Reach fans and Halo 5 fans are all going to get mad at me for saying that, or maybe they agree, but I feel like it was the best balanced Halo of every Halo I've ever played. And I think that instills confidence in me, but the campaign, them not showing it here, does make me a bit nervous. Anything else on Halo before we make our way forward?
I do like one of the top comments here on the YouTube video here for the console is, people can't even get a regular Series X. Just imagine how hard this will be to get.
Yeah, sorry guys. Hope you bought it in the first 3 minutes.
Gone and gone.
All gone. All gone. Moving on, clearing our plates and putting a new one on the table here is UFL. Guys, we needed a new football sim. There's people arguing that FIFA is not giving them what they want. So Pro Evolution Soccer said, hey, we got you. We're going to go free to play. We're going to rename ourselves eFootball. We're going to give you a little beta test that some people got to check out as well. And then we got some other stuff coming. There's another game called Goals that's supposedly in the works. And now today, by Strikers Inc., UFL was announced. This is a new football sim, the fourth football sim, potentially launching this fall.
So I'm going to give you a live reaction because I actually got called into a conference call when this trailer
this should
started.
Be fun.
So I was so ticked off. I was like, this is the worst time to call a meeting during the workday is during Gamescom. And I was really ticked off. My boss didn't understand. Okay, cool. So we're starting off with West Ham at the beautiful London Stadium that has horrific sightlines from what I've heard. That was it. Wait, that was it? That was
it. Free to play, fair to play. UFL. Hope you enjoyed those cleats.
That was it.
That was it.
That is EA behind this also, or is this was stupid. Like you, Joey, do people pay money to be a part of Gamescom?
I would think that's somehow involved.
You paid money for a 34-second crap trailer. Yeah, you're really going to be taking on EA and Konami and everyone else too. Yeah, that's a waste of money. I'll say it. That looks crap.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the trailer. I like the idea though. So to give you guys a little bit more of a background, I looked into some press stuff for this one. So in quotes, players will be able to create their own football clubs made up of more than 5,000 licensed footballers and compete with other gamers worldwide to prove their skills and climb to the very top of the league. In addition to that, they go on a little bit to describe what fair to play means. It's an emphasis on player skill, and there will be no pay-to-win elements supposedly in this game. And last but not least, the developers are former FIFA and PES players who didn't like the direction of both franchises. I don't remember if you guys ever saw like Scooby-Doo back in the day where they eventually unveiled the monster at the end. I feel like if someone pulled off the head of one of these developers, it would be Panicking Pat underneath. It just feels right up his alley. It's someone who has played a lot of FIFA, has looked into PES. He's not super happy with some of the direction that these developers have taken. This seems like a similar story here. Now, with that being said, am I sold on the new game based on some nice shiny looking cleats and a little bit of some stadium lighting? Probably not. But I do like the idea. It sounds like they're going out and getting these licenses. I like the idea of them doing their own clubs as well, which is something you can already do in these other games, but they're adding some unique flair to it with the free to play, as well as with the supposedly fair to play, assuming these microtransactions are only cosmetic.
So from what I'm interpreting from the word vomit you just gave us in regards to describing this game, is it like is there like I can play West Ham versus Chelsea in this?
I have no idea.
Or is this more, because from the way you described it, it sounds more like Ultimate Team without the aspect of having to pay for packs. Like it's essentially, it sounds like it's a play to earn kind of thing.
That's the way I'm kind of assuming. To me, like, this is Ultimate Team with only earning aspects as opposed to paying aspects. And then maybe you pay for cosmetics or something.
Which, if that's the case, then okay, I get that, but you're still going up against FIFA. PES hardly has a dent in the market. Now you're going up against FIFA. Yeah, I get it. You have former FIFA pros that are kind of spearheading this whole thing. But the problem is, FIFA's where the money's at. FIFA's where the competitions are at. You're going to have a hard time getting these leagues to go away from the most successful sports franchise in gaming history to play your brand new game that you gave us 34 seconds of pure hot garbage, or cleat action, if you will. I don't think it's going to go as well as they might think it is.
I think that's the biggest thing, and Drew, we'll flip over to you in just a second here. That's my biggest question mark as well. It was the same thing we mentioned on LvLUp when eFootball came up from the PES developers over there at Konami. Like, okay, you have a market share. It's like 7-8%. Sure, you're going free to play. I think that's a great move. I think it's going to be a big market breaker in the sense they might add a percentage here or there. Now, with that being said, it comes down to gameplay still. And while FIFA does a lot of copy and pasting year over year, they're not adding a ton of new features. They do a very good job of keeping gameplay pretty clean. The servers, they could use some work, but overall, the normal player is going to enjoy FIFA. There's a career mode, there's a ultimate team mode, there's Volta, there's a big assortment of modes. This is not bringing that big assortment from what we know here so far. Now, it is bringing the free-to-play game, and I think that, along with Konami, does add some flair to the market. But overall, this trailer on a big stage is nice, but it didn't really sell that many people, in my opinion. People like you and I, John, who play the game here and there, I'm not ready to like rush over to see what UFL is having to offer. I did check out a press release, so maybe I'm lying a little bit. But overall, they didn't really draw me in a ton with this showing. Drew, anything else to add here on UFL and their jump into the football sim genre?
I think we're all forgetting what is arguably the best soccer franchise out there, and it's
Mario Strikers.
Mario Strikers.
Hey!
You read my mind. When the Switch version of Mario Strikers come out, no one's going to think about UFL. They're going to be playing Mario Strikers and watching Luigi beat the crap out of his brother in soccer over and over again.
I would love a new Mario Strikers game. I've mentioned this for like 2 or 3 years on this podcast. Like, give me a new Mario Strikers game. I will buy it hands down. I haven't pre-ordered a game, and I don't even know how long, but I would easily pre-order Mario Strikers.
That is all I have to contribute to this conversation.
Love it. Absolutely love it. John, anything else you want to kick around the soccer ball with on this topic?
The FIFA 22 demo is pretty good so far.
That is true. FIFA
Spicy.
22. Have we had a UFL demo? Not quite yet, but hey, FIFA 22.
We have a clean.
Unfortunately,
We have a clean.
Fortunately, we can't talk too much about it because there are some little contract things here and there. But if you guys did get a chance, I hope you're enjoying it as well.
I hear that there's soccer balls in it.
I cannot confirm that.
Yeah, can't confirm or deny. Probably a good guess, though. Moving on to a galaxy far, far away in a nice little brick laid out universe. This is Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Guys, this game was supposed to release almost 2 full years ago from the new release date we have. It's still not a solid date. They have given us spring 2022. I think this was set to release originally in spring 2020. Obviously, COVID-19 came out. It had a big effect on the gaming industry. But a 2-year delay, people are giving Halo a hard time. Lego Star Wars just working its way through. 2-year delay, and who knows if it even hits in spring 2022. We did get a new trailer. It did include voiceover, so it won't be that typical, I guess, silent Lego Star Wars with just like the animations, the faces. Which I don't know how I feel about. I like the idea of them going out big budget with the voices, but I also just love the awkward communication of the Lego faces with no voices. And they also gave a little hint of the impressive galaxy map that we'll be seeing as well. So all 9 movies included in this game. I know at one point I was told Rogue One should be included in here as well. There's also hints of little Mandalorian stuff in the works. I don't know if that's going to be a DLC later down the road, or with the possibly troubled development that's going on here, if it was just all cut completely.
These games have no business being as entertaining as they are. Not even just Star Wars, just Lego in general. It just really works for Star Wars, but this conversation it feels like a joke, but it's so true.
I haven't liked some of the newest ones that I've tried here and there on stuff like Game Pass, but the original one, like the I guess it was movies 4 through 6, and then even the like complete saga of 1 through 6, I thought were phenomenal. I think there was a ton of fun. For someone like me who's an achievement hunter, I love the idea of grinding for these certain things, finding all the gold bricks, finding all, I think they're called like mini kits or something like that. There's a lot of good character collecting involved too, kind of like Galaxy of Heroes that we all play on mobile devices. So they're one of the games that draw me in. I think one of the things I would ask for with this kind of being like the complete package is give me online co-op as well. John, as someone who has enjoyed some Star Wars from time to time, quite a bit of it, in fact, does Lego Star Wars stick out as one you want to check out further?
I have never in my life played a Lego game. And for whatever reason, I am dying to play this game. I just don't know if it's the idea of getting to play through all the episodes. Hopefully those rumors of Rogue One and some Mando content are true. I think it's great. Like, who doesn't love Star Wars content? And if everything I've heard about Lego games is true, there's going to be some nice added humor in there as well. Joey, I think I'm going to be playing a Lego game for the first time ever when this comes out.
It looks fun. And if you do me a favor, John, while you're playing this trailer, just scrub back about like 20, 30 seconds here. And take a look at this galaxy map. This thing is something that has never been in a Lego Star Wars game. It's typically you're in like a hub world, like the cantina, and then from there you walk through a doorway, and that's like, hey, welcome to movie number 4. Check out these chapters, and there's some more little doorways. This looks crazy, and we only see the first tab here of like, it looks like 6 or 7 tabs at the top. One of them probably like a help tab. I don't know what the other ones are. I would think there's like a character tab, maybe like that collectible tab, but in the end, this world map looks pretty sick.
That's just the Arcanus sector.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that this is not an accurate map because I've seen some other Star Wars maps, and Camino and Tatooine are not that close. Hoth and Endor are definitely not that close either.
What? You don't think the desert planet is right next to the giant overflowed water planet?
Absolutely not. And then you have like Kashyyyk. Kashyyyk is right around the corner. Like, no, absolutely not. And then yeah, you have Naboo that's there. I mean, Lego, if you're gonna tinker in Star Wars, at least get the map right. Come on.
We're all over here critiquing the map, but I love it. I think it's a new challenge way, or not challenge rather, but a different way of kind of exploring, a different way to jump into the different stories. I'm curious, if I go to like Dathomir, am I going to jump into one particular story? Same thing with Hoth. Obviously, Hoth has been visited a couple times throughout the Star Wars series. Do I get to pick the chapter once I'm on Hoth? Do I automatically jump into certain play? I'm very curious how the new format, in a sense, is going to work moving through the stories. So lots of stuff there, lots of characters to unlock, a lot of collectibles, a lot of fun things ahead. We'll see what other features are included when that one drops, supposedly spring 2022 for its 4th delayed date. We'll see if it actually makes this one. Hopefully it does, but spring 2022 on that one. Moving forward to the trippiest game of the night. Guys, put everything down, whether you're drinking alcohol, whether you're doing something you probably shouldn't be. Just put it down for a minute because you're not going to need it. Decay V has got you covered. This is the trippiest game, and I'm playing Psychonauts right now, which is very trippy in and of itself. This game takes it to a whole nother level. I don't even remember how I described it. It kind of feels like Pokemon and Digimon meet like ultra realistic environmental graphics. And then just it goes off the wall, and it is crazy. This is probably the trippiest game I have seen in recent times.
I'm failing to see the Pokemon and Digimon reference.
Oh, don't worry. It's coming. You'll start tripping here in a minute.
I'm just trying to figure out what society lets their kids ride their bikes in the middle of rush hour traffic, it looks like. But, hey,
Anime society.
Anime. Okay, so now we have a robot. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's
okay.
Like Skylanders is thrown in there. The soundtrack was fantastic. K-pop going on. That was excellent.
It's just, this thing gets trippier and trippier as it goes, and by the end of it, I was like, I thought I knew what was going on, but I literally have no idea. Like, that was a giant inflatable hammer that kid just pulled out. Like, what in the world is going on?
He's riding a llama.
I'm just gonna wait for a press release that lays this all out for me.
This was also, I think, one of the longest gameplay trailers. Like, they legit paid some good chunk of money for this thing. And look at the grass. Like, the grass is like Forza Horizon 5 almost status. Like, this is super realistic grass in this cartoony, crazy acid trip of a game.
Well,
like, what is even going on?
Joey, complaining about the grass. Now you're starting to sound like a Halo fanboy complaining about the grass.
Oh, you mean the PlayStation fanboy?
Or whatever.
With the, the Far Cry grass.
Yeah. Give me a
break. The puddles in Spider-Man when that was a thing.
Yeah, that started it. And then there was like this blade of grass in Far Cry. They're like, this game is happening? That grass is like blurry. It's like,
where does that child store that hammer? I don't understand. They pull out of the backpack?
And there's like confetti, and there's like wind, and then they're flying. Like, I'm telling you, I have no idea what this game is supposed to be. I don't understand it at all. I have no clue.
We'll find out. Once there'll be a press release that describes it, and or someone will review it. That's what I'm waiting on.
I would love to have a beer with the developer, like that came up with this idea, or the director. Yeah, a beer, because you can't say illicit drugs on Twitch or anything.
I think you would probably die having anything else, to be honest, watching this at the same time.
It's like sit there. It's like some surfer bro stoned out. Man. So like what I was trying to go for here, I'm like So like you got these kids, and these like hammers and like and stuffed animals. Like this makes no sense.
I mean, it looks gorgeous. Like environmentally, the graphics are phenomenal.
Is that a polar bear or a panda?
It looks like a reverse panda.
That is a person with an alarm clock as a head. That's like my worst enemy.
An aardvark.
He's got a vacuum cleaner.
That's like the Ghostbusters.
Little Ghostbusters action, yeah.
With a vacuum cleaner.
He's catching the little Pokemon Digimon aardvark.
Guys, it's okay. Cindy Sue's up in her attic now. She's floating now. Okay. Demons in the house. Hello. And she's gone.
It's very colorful. I'll give it credit for that. There is a lot of color splashed up and down here.
All right.
Yeah, Decay V.
Am I on drugs?
I mean,
it
wasn't the. I don't even know. Like, if you ask me what trailer stood out the most outside of Saints Row, it's probably Decay V. And it's not because I'm like super enthralled by the game. It's because I have not a dang idea what is going on in this game at all.
I was confused but happy because the music was good. It was colorful. Like there was nothing negative there, just uncertainty.
Yeah, what a wacky, weird game. But yeah, Decay V, if you want to check that out. Oh, fun fact. So looking at the graphics as far as like what was Google searched the most, consistency-wise, pretty much Halo was the top of the chart the whole single show long as well as afterwards. The one difference was when this trailer came up on the screen, there was a giant spike of people searching for this game, trying to find out what the hell this game is. So this ended up taking your most searches of the night over a certain period of time, Decay V. Craziness. So go ahead and check that one out. Next up is Far Cry 6, where we had Giancarlo come in and show us how amazing he can be, whether it be an actor on the main screen or here in a video game, getting the job done once again. What were your guys' thoughts on the world premiere story trailer of Far Cry 6?
I mean, I'm still bitter that Giancarlo didn't show up to AwesomeCon this past weekend. He had to cancel last second, so I was a little bummed about that. So I'm going to hold that against him in my review for Far Cry 6. No, I think it looks great. Graphically, it looks amazing. Everything about the trailer. I think a lot of people are super excited for this. Yeah, I'm pumped. I think everything about it looks great.
It was brilliant to bring him in. He is so good at what he does. Mandalorian, we saw what a powerful actor he can be. He looks amazing here. The voice inflection is perfect, like he's been a voice actor. I haven't played much Far Cry, but I want to know this story because he's so good.
He is, and I think he does a very good job playing a villain. And this is kind of like one of those more political villains as well, where he's like a powerful character. He's not necessarily the one out there doing the violence in and of himself or the villain activity, but he is kind of like that mastermind behind the scenes, and I think he portrays it very wonderfully. Anything else on Far Cry 6? This is a game we've covered quite a bit on LvLUp over E3 and over its eventual or original reveal, I guess, in like April, May, and then a few other times. So we don't have to touch too much on it unless there's anything else that sticks out to you guys. Perfect. Next up, just a quick hit on this one, Horizon Forbidden West. We do have a release date on this one. We thought it was going to be delayed, and that is now officially confirmed. No real news or no real new news outside of that. I think they showed like a quick clip or so of gameplay, but really not much at all. The new release date is going to be February 18th, 2022, with pre-orders starting next week. I'm excited for Horizon Forbidden West. I think it looks good. Horizon Zero Dawn was a good game. I'll be honest, I'm not like I came in wanting to absolutely love the game, and it just hasn't sold me as much as I expected it to. I've been playing through a little bit here and there on Steam, but it hasn't been like that ultra draw me in, I have to finish within a couple weeks type of game. It's just been, I'll play a little bit here and there. So coming with Horizon Forbidden West 2, or the second sequel rather to the original, they're coming in. It's a bigger budget. It's a good team behind it. They know what the players enjoyed. So I expect good things from this game when it does drop next year. Next up on the list is Tales of Arise. We're not going to touch too much on this one, but there is a Tales of Series 25th anniversary game coming to mobile devices, and that is Tales of Luminara. On top of that, Drew and I really like this, and I'm sure you did as well, John. Lindsay Sterling's performance of a classic Tales of Arise song was phenomenally done with her violin work here during the showcase.
One of my top 3 moments that I teased in the beginning of the show. That was moment number 2.
Didn't know the song, loved the performance.
Yeah, I think she did a good job. And just playing a violin in general, I think is something I would not be great at, but doing it while dancing, I think makes it even more impressive. And then they had the scenery changing in the background for Tales of Arise scenery. And it flowed together so well. And I think it was a nice way to kind of break up the show. Next up on the list is Crossfire X. This one came toward the end of the show. I'm pretty excited about this game, guys. We got a new action trailer. It looked pretty good to me. I don't like invisibility in games, so I'm not the biggest fan of that. Still no release date. They're still saying 2021. So maybe late, maybe December, maybe November, who knows? But this one is crafted for Xbox consoles and PC. Smilegate Entertainment and Remedy are the 2 teams behind it. It's going to come out with a single-player campaign as well as a multiplayer. And a lot of what we saw today in the trailer was some of those multiplayer maps, as well as some of the different skills involved. This is something that, again, it feels in the vein of Call of Duty and Battlefield, but adding those little skills like invisibility, adding some of this different combat action with, I think there's grapple hooks in here as well, kind of give it a little bit of a different flair. And it's something that, honestly, I think is a dark horse to stand out a bit. Any other thoughts here on Crossfire? Is it just me that finds this one kind of intriguing?
It looks like every other modern shooter out there, just with invisibility on it. I'm sorry. These games come out so frequently. There's almost reaching battle royale status of oversaturation. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think graphically it looks great, but it just feels like it's a dime a dozen right now.
Yeah, the one interesting thing to touch on, and we'll switch over to you in just a second, Drew, is this is a lot bigger than Call of Duty over in China and Asia in particular. So over in South Korea, Japan, and I believe China, those kind of 3 big Asian regions for gamers over there, this is your bigger game. This is up there with like a CSGO in a sense. Much bigger than COD, much bigger than Battlefield. So that is something to kind of keep in mind as it makes its way to North America. Go ahead, Drew. What were you going to say?
Just like John was saying, it's a dime a dozen. If someone said, hey, get this game and let's play, I would download it and play it. But I'm not going to actively seek it out when it comes out.
Well, maybe the boogeyman will actively seek you out. I think that's kind of a cool addition adding in here as well. But yeah, I agree. It doesn't have a ton of uniqueness. But if it's going to come down to me playing another Call of Duty multiplayer versus this, I almost lean toward trying something a little bit new in this personally. Next up is Genshin Impact. Not a ton to mention here, but we did get a look at Aloy in action. She's dropping September 1st, 2021, coming over from Horizon Zero Dawn and eventually Forbidden West, dropping into Genshin Impact. I think she looked great. I think the character in and of herself translated over very well. And then we also got a nice little look at Melodies of an Ancient Journey, which is going to be a concert that is featured in October 3rd, 2021 to be exact. Not too many big Genshin Impact players here, but for those on the stream, we do have a streamer that streams it regularly, and that is Ghost Runner. Richard is doing that stream. I don't know if he has a plan for this week, but typically quite a bit of Genshin and Fire Emblem coming out of him. So if you want to check out the new content, I'm sure he'll be talking about it when his next stream hits, whether it be this week or next week. We'll keep you updated. Next up on the list is Sifu. This is one that was originally shown, I believe, in a PlayStation showcase. A lot of fluid combat, a lot of people comparing it to kind of like playing out a kung fu film. It kind of has some of those Yakuza vibes to me. Yakuza also has a very deep story behind it, though, outside of just the fighting that goes on. This one very heavy on the fighting, at least from what we've seen from the trailer so far. I do really like the art style as well, though.
Yeah, the art style has like a really nice minimalistic take to it. A very smooth, like kind of 3D model for a lot of the characters. And I think that really helps complement just the dynamic fighting that is put into the game. Like it's very hard to kind of program models to do what these characters you're seeing on your screen do when there's a ton of detail that goes into those models. So I feel like it plays well into what it's trying to accomplish, which is a great fighting style game that is fast moving. You're not going to have a whole lot of time to pay attention to how detailed the graphics are. And I think that's fine in this case because you just get such a smoother gameplay out of it because of it.
Very Batman Arkham vibes with this unique art style on top of it.
I didn't even think about that, but Squircle hopping into chat here saying it's mocap. I didn't even think of motion capture for that. That makes tons of sense, though.
Oh, snap. Okay.
That does make sense.
That would make sense of why it looks so fluid for sure.
Because it is.
Okay, next up on our list, guys, we're doing really well time-wise. We're pretty much ahead of schedule, to be honest, from what we were planning. Death Stranding Director's Cut. This one is dropping September 24th. It is PlayStation only out there for PS4 and PS5 players. We got an extended look at it. Kojima not over there in person to talk about it. No voiceover from him as well, but we did get some nice English dub action. There is a Buddy Bot edition coming in to help carry you and your cargo. There's a training range being added, a new gun, which I believe they said is the laser gun. Boss battles can now be revisited and refought, which I think is a cool concept for any game. You have jump ramps being added in as well to kind of make that cargo travel of your delivery system a little bit easier. They added, and this is weird to me, a racetrack got added in with some online rankings to kind of race up against ghosts of your friends or other people online. And then we got some gameplay footage of a new action-packed delivery going on as well, with some new boss battles being added in as new missions. Overall, I am not the biggest fan of Death Stranding. I think it's a cool idea. I think Kojima is one of the most amazing directors out there with one of those crazy minds like Tim Schafer behind Psychonauts. But this game, to me, didn't really do it. It's not a game that I was super enthralled to play. And I get the idea of them releasing it again, and I think they're doing it in a good way of doing that. The director's cut, adding all these different features, allowing Kojima to make the game the way he wants it to be made. With that being said, this is not going to be something that I just go out and buy, even behind a legendary director, behind a game that has done pretty well. I'm not super sold on the Director's Cut edition.
I mean, you're not going to get it because you also don't have a PlayStation. So,
But I mean, in general, like this is going to eventually come to PC, and I just don't think this is going to be a game high on my list.
Yeah, I mean, if I end up playing, because I never played it on console for PlayStation either. If I end up playing this game, it's only going to be because of the fact that Kojima was the one that directed it and developed it. Just because, I'm just a fan of a lot of his work. He's done amazing games in the past. Again, my favorite game series of all, Metal Gear Solid, was his brainchild. So, I mean, that would be the main reason to try it. But other than that, Joe, I think I'm right there with you. It's not really my thing when it comes to gaming.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I've heard with this game is you have to play 8 to 10 hours and then it gets good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a long time for me to kind of drag through a game before it gets good. And it is a long campaign. So like once you hit that certain point, once you're done being like the pizza delivery boy in a sense, you get all this trippiness being added in. There was obviously the stuff with like the baby that we saw a lot in trailers when it initially released. It's a cool concept. It's super trippy. It's super weird. But for someone with limited time to choose and play games like we were talking about earlier with MMOs, it's tough to warrant jumping in. But like you said, legendary director, maybe it's something I give a try later on down the road. But at least for now, it coming to PC, I haven't been super sold to jump into it yet.
For sure.
Definitely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Actually, just definitely when it goes on sale and inevitably in the future for half price, quarter price, whatever, I could see jumping into it. It looks like it would be entertaining. Just the sea of games that there are, I can jump into other things and have a good time sooner than 8 to 10 hours.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I like the director's cut. Like these new missions, I think look really fascinating. I like the additions to them. And the idea of kind of like carrying and balancing this stuff while you're fighting out, I think is a cool concept. But yeah, overall, I think if I were to jump in, it would be a director's cut over the normal game. Now, with that being said, what were your guys' thoughts of ending the show on this note? Obviously, Jeff and Kojima go back. They have a good history with one another. But this is not really like one of those big one more thing games, as it is another game that's already come out, but is kind of being re-released with a few different features.
This is on my top 3 list for disappointments in the show. Yeah, I don't think it was a good game to end on. Again, I feel like the whole show in itself set the bar way too high at the beginning and couldn't live up to it throughout the entire, 2 hours of this show. And then ending it with this, I mean, I understand why they put it there. I don't agree with the placement of this game. I feel like if they put this probably towards the beginning or maybe the middle, that's probably a better place for it. I get why they put it at the end because of that relationship, with Jeff Keighley and Kojima. So it makes sense why it's there. I don't agree with its placement, though.
Drew, what are your thoughts?
It was not the very worst choice that they could have made for the last thing to show, but it wasn't much better than that. It's at least something that people know about and there is some excitement around. But as great as Saints Row was at the front, this was the opposite on the end. You started off on a high and you hit this really level of meh. You know, they didn't end with Decay V where you just go away confused. You just kind of went away like, okay, I guess I'll wait for whatever's next now. Just meh.
I mean, if you ended with, Decay V, at least you have people talking about it. True. You know, at least you have people saying like, what in the world did they end that showcase on? You know, it was what, Joey, you said it was the most searched game that was the only one that overthrew Halo.
The highest spike at one time.
Spike.
Halo was the most consistent for like 99%, but that one outspiked it for when it was shown on screen.
Okay, so it outspiked it. So obviously, with how weird that trailer was, it got people talking. I feel like, it probably wouldn't have been much better, but it created traffic. It created people going online to figure out what the heck it is. I would argue this didn't create much traffic because everyone already knew what it was. It's like, okay, cool, awesome. You're ending it with this. Cool, it's a director's cut. Awesome. Okay. Oh, we're done. Okay, cool, awesome. People aren't going to remember that. You end it with something crazy like a Decay V or whatever. At least people talk about it. At least they talk about it. But I guess it's whatever.
I mean, even the Marvel game, I think, would have been good. Like a CGI trailer, I think, is a decent way to end. Marvel has a huge name behind it. You have Disney's marketing. I think that was the third most searched game as well, the Marvel game. So to me, if I had to choose between all the games in here, I think the Marvel one is probably the one I would have ended it on.
Before we move on real quick, it was Kojima's birthday yesterday on the 24th of August.
Yes.
He has achieved level 58 in life, which is very, very awesome. So a big happy birthday from all of us here to one of my favorite gaming developer heroes out there. In Kojima. It's been absolutely fantastic playing your games and hope to see more come out so I can play more. Appreciate it.
I can't type. So yeah, that pretty much wraps us up as far as games that were covered in the show. Next up is the awards, just to touch on this, and then we can just take a quick look back if anyone wants to touch on anything we missed. But the awards felt awkward to me. Jeff Keighley, obviously, doing the Game of the Awards show at the end of the year. Awards are a big part of that. For this show, though, the opening night live at Gamescom, we're just getting into Gamescom and they're already giving out awards. It didn't feel quite right to me. And the other thing is the games that were really chosen for some of these award categories. So Elden Ring, for example, that one was under Xbox. It was under PlayStation. I believe it was under PC as well. Great. Elden Ring looked phenomenal when it was shown at Summer. I'm excited about it. A lot of people are excited about it as a game. It's kind of that next Dark Souls-esque game. It wasn't even shown in opening night live. So how does it qualify for an award? Because it was shown earlier this summer, because it might eventually come later on through Gamescom. It just felt really out of place for me, as well as where they kind of place these awards throughout the show. What were your guys' thoughts overall?
It was gimmicky. It was a big gimmick. I mean, I guarantee you no one cares about these awards. I mean, like Halo Infinite. How do we know it's going to be the best Xbox game? Like, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, people are hyped about it, but I mean, I just don't understand how you can do awards right now for games that haven't even been released. Like, is there going to be the one Xbox game that's been Googled the most? Then yeah, give them a freaking award for it. But other than that, like, I don't know. I find the whole thing just gimmicky.
Sure. Yeah, what are your thoughts on awards here at Gamescom?
What really set it up for me to show how ridiculous it is was that for the Nintendo Switch Game Award, whatever the award actually was, came down to 2 Ubisoft games, the Mario Rabbids and Just Dance 2022. Those were the only 2 choices. They were both Ubisoft. Like, if that doesn't show you how just gimmicky and ridiculous the whole thing was, nothing will.
Yeah, it felt weird. And I feel like I'm okay with like E3. So they do best of show and they do it at the end. So you have all the showcases, Xbox and formerly PlayStation, Ubisoft, Square Enix. Everyone does their thing and it's great. We all get to see what they're bringing to the table. Then at the end, they have, I don't know, 50, 75 people that are like well-known journalists and developers throughout the industry come in and say, hey, of all these showcases, these were the games that stood out to us the most in platformer, action adventure, all these different categories. It makes sense. They were part of the show. It's the end of the show. What stood out to everyone at the show? This coming out, opening the show with these awards. And like you said, Drew, these awards that are not even like first party in a sense. The only first party game that won was Halo Infinite. Every other game that won was a third party game. PlayStation, the best PlayStation game of 2021, which is coming out in 2022, is Elden Ring. And it's third party. It's going to be on Xbox. It's going to be on PC. So it felt really awkward. It didn't feel like it needed to be in there, in my opinion. So just to run through these awards quickly, and it's very quick. And again, just as unnecessary as it was in their show, it's probably unnecessary in ours. But Xbox, the best game that won for 2021 is Halo Infinite. The Nintendo game, like Drew said, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. The best PC game, Siberia of the World Before. I actually have no idea what that game is. If either one of you guys do, feel free to chime in. And then the best PlayStation game, again, was Elden Ring as well. Anyone have any idea what Siberia of the World Before is?
I'll Google it real quick.
Oh, perfect. Look at that. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it
live. Let's see here.
And while John goes ahead and pulls that up, we'll just tease the last thing here. And that is the awesome indie stream. Guys, Gamescom has just kicked off. Sure, they've already voted for awards, but this was opening night live. There's still plenty of Gamescom action to come as the week goes on. Tomorrow's showcase will feature an awesome indie stream. I believe it's led up by IGN. It's going to be at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's going to be about 11:30 a.m. Pacific time if you guys want to check that out. It's going to run, I think, like an hour and a half, around 90 minutes long, showing a ton of different indie games. I believe there's 40, if I remember correctly, included in that stream. So if you're interested in indie games, whether you can catch the stream or not, there should be quite a few floating around on the socials later tomorrow afternoon. So go ahead and check those out. But for now, John, Siberia of the World Before, is that what you're playing here on screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out as we all are going through. It looks like it has like a little bit of a steampunk edge to it. At least in that trolley, it looked like it was a robot driving the thing, like a steampunk robot.
Apparently, Siberia is an old franchise of some sort.
Oh.
So this is a return or a revisit or something?
Could it be of the world before?
Okay, so it definitely has like World War II vibes because they have a lot of references to, at least in that last scene with the flags, very Nazi-esque flags without the swastika on it, because obviously as soon as you put a swastika on it, that game is not able to be sold in Germany. So you have to pretty much take that out. Yeah, interesting. Oh, okay.
I didn't know that. Fun fact of the night, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, you didn't know that?
It does make sense, though. It definitely makes sense.
Yeah. The only time, so your fun fact, the only time a swastika can be displayed in Germany is if it's used for educational purposes in the classroom, or it's in a museum. Anything other than that, if it's displayed outside in Germany, it's actually a 5-year prison sentence.
So what about a Call of Duty game? Do they wipe the symbol?
Correct. When Call of Duty is sold in Germany, and if it has any references to Nazis, the name changes and they take the swastika out.
Huh. I like that. Cool stuff.
There you go.
Cool, cool. Look at that, guys. You got some game breakdowns, some recaps. We gave you some history lessons between Flight Sim and Call of Duty, and now over here about German games. But overall, some really good stuff tonight. Overall, let's look at rating the show, because we're at the end here. We're right under our 2-hour mark, what we were aiming for. What are the ratings for? I mean, we'll just do opening night live in and of itself. So Jeff Keighley show, the 2-hour show that we were shown today, What are your guys' ratings so far for the show and why?
What's the scale we're doing?
Let's do A, B, C, D, and below. John.
C. It wasn't anything special. I think they started the bar, or they set the bar way too high at the beginning. It failed to live up to the hype. I do think there were some great moments. I'm sorry, the fact that one of your big moments was Lindsey Sterling's violin playing. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'm sorry, people should not be talking about that at a video game conference, like when we're supposed to be blown away by video games. I just think they really missed the mark with it. And again, I'm trying to be understanding. They're coming out of a pandemic like everyone else is. They don't have, a lot of people are rushing to get things out there, but at the same time, it's like it didn't excite me.
Drew.
Yeah, I think C, maybe C plus if I want to be nice. For all the same reasons. There were a few really high highs, but a whole lot of mez and lows to go with it. I don't know that it was worth my time to watch the full 2 hours. I could have watched, 12 minutes and been good.
12 minutes, a very intriguing game, by the way, if you guys have not played it. Fun fact, it's on Game Pass too. But yeah, I'm kind of echoing the same sentiments. I give it like a B minus, C plus personally. Similar to what John and Drew, you guys were saying, I think it started off really strong. The Marvel games, Saints Row, Halo Infinite, all that at the beginning. A few things that stood apart from it. I think Death Stranding at the end was a mistake. You're giving a game, yes, it's a new release of the game, but still a game a lot of people have already played. It just doesn't hit home as like a one more thing in a sense. The other thing is Halo Infinite not having campaign gameplay. I think had campaign gameplay, maybe it gets placed somewhere else throughout the show and kind of gives a little bit more of a bump in there as well. But yeah, no real tons of new reveals. I mean, the Marvel game was new reveal. Saints Row was a new reveal. But again, a lot of those new reveals at the top of the show as well. So not a ton standing out in this one. It's still, I would give it like right around average. I think Jeff did a good job hosting it. I think Lindsay did a nice job really coming in and breaking it up with something unique with her performance. But overall, in terms of new game being shown, it is a tough year. It's COVID, so a little bit of credit there. That's why you get your plus or your minus, depending if you're on the C or the B side. But the other thing being E3 just happened, so that is also a big factor as well. Anything else you guys want to say before we head into this nice old closing? I like the little mouth wiggle, Drew. Thank you. Thanks again for coming on, Drew. You're always a phenomenal guest. You came on for some good E3 coverage. Glad to have you back on here for Gamescom as well.
I appreciate y'all having me. I love coming and just chitting and chatting about the video games.
Chitting and chatting about the video games. Okay, Boomer. All right, Nation, that is going to do it for this special edition of LvLUp Live. But before you go, head on over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you will get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you have not already done so, make sure you follow the show here live on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, make sure to leave us a review. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, and pretty much anywhere else you can find a podcast. Just search for us, and we would love to hear from you. We love to hear from our community so much. Joey, we have several ways for them to get a hold of us. What are some of those ways?
Absolutely, guys. Head over to Twitter and find us at LvLUp Live. That is at LvLUP Live. In addition to that, you can follow the umbrella company OTN Media. We're on Twitter and Facebook at OTN Media and on Instagram at OTN_Media. Last but not least, hit us up with a follow, maybe even a nice subscription. One of those Twitch Prime subs is always appreciated over here. Yes, I see you guys like my underscore. This one has no underscore, though. Twitch.tv/OTN Media. This show typically Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We have some other shows throughout the week, as well as some good old streams. Come stop by.
All right, make sure you tune in next week, Thursday, September 2nd. Joey, it's September already, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears and eyes a favor. Hit that sub and follow button to know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your viewing and listening pleasures. We'll catch you all on Thursday. Have a fantastic weekend. Remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online. All right, boys, we ready for this? And as always,
Level up.
Level up.